Thanks. Joining me now on the phone is Craig Setzer, the chief meteorologist at our Miami station, WFOR. And Craig, Miami is a place that knows about the dangers of flash flooding. We see the situation now in Thailand where heavy rain could rapidly change the conditions there. Can you talk about what that looks like when these heavy rains and flash floods hit?
Yeah, well, the situation is similar in the aspect that Florida, especially South Florida, has a rainy season. Other parts of the country in the southwest U.S., it's called a monsoon season, where the summer rains come in. We see that typically Colorado through Arizona and New Mexico, the summer rains come in. And it happens throughout the northern hemisphere summer, especially at the lower latitudes, such as Thailand, where they get a rainy season and a dry season. And their rainy season similarly lasts almost as long as much of the southern U.S.'s rainy season, typically from May or June through October. And that's not to say that it's going to rain every single day, but the chances of it raining on a day are greater than it's not raining on a day. So when they have these windows here, like they're having now in Thailand, they've got to take advantage of it. And the interesting thing about this is, I'm sure you've discussed it as we've been going here, is that water seeks its level. So these caves, which most likely were formed by water flowing, when it rains, the water is going to seek its level and come up, and obviously it's cut them off. And 2.5 miles in, obviously, is a very long journey, and even in dry conditions. So it's especially critical here. But I think they're wise in not waiting until the end of rainy season, because that's a ridiculously long time into October.
Right. And we're toward the beginning of the rainy season, a few weeks in anyway. And is it kind of like a curve? In other words, would we expect that each week as we go into the middle of the rainy season would get a bit worse, or not necessarily?
So it kind of depends. I mean, typically in rainy season, the beginning of rainy season is a little bit wetter, simply because the atmosphere is still cooler higher up in the atmosphere, which results in what we call instability. And so usually the beginning or the first several weeks or even months of rainy season are more prolific. The rain production is quite a bit higher. And then the atmosphere warms and becomes a little more stable. It tapers off a bit. You still get the occasional showers in a rainy season or a monsoonal pattern, but you don't have the really, really heavy downpours. That's not as true in the southwest U.S., where the monsoon season, which comes on strong there, moisture from the Gulf makes it up through the Rio Grande, and some Pacific moisture comes in and is drawn in from all the warmth of the desert southwest. And then you get these very heavy thunderstorms and flash flooding there. And, of course, in the southwest U.S., you have arroyos, which are like valleys, little valleys where walls of water will literally come down, tearing down through a valley. And then hikers and campers have to be aware of that.
Is there any comparison to be made between preparations and warnings that American officials, or perhaps in other parts of the world, have about potentially dangerous areas during this part of the calendar, and what was or wasn't done in this case in Thailand?
Well, I think, most modern civilizations and countries have some type of warning system, and I think it's a two-sided question, because one is, does the warning go out? But then two, do people who get the warning heed the warning, or are they even paying attention? And because this case is so unusual, I don't even know if I would consider, if I was going caving, if it wasn't raining, or spelunking, if it wasn't already raining, that I would even think of the possibility of this cave becoming isolated and cut off by the water.
Yeah. What else are you thinking of or looking at as you see the weather conditions, the conditions the divers are facing, the condition these kids are in from a weather perspective?
Well, I think the concern would be that if the rains come again, and when they come again, is that there's going to be currents. And, of course, anytime anybody that does any scuba diving knows how just incredibly strong even a little bit of current can be.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Hey, what's going on, Sean?
And so I think that would be a consideration.
Hanging in there, man.
Is currents going through the caves and things like that. And I think it's also kind of just a wake-up call that if you are someone who's an avid outdoorsman anywhere in the country or the world for that matter, and you're in a situation where there are heavy rains and things like that, that's a thing you have to be aware of. I mean, we've heard of cases where kids go up storm drains that are rather large storm drains, and then a flash flood or a wall of water will come through, and unfortunately in that case there's a loss of life.
Yeah, absolutely, and it happens all over all the time. Craig Setzer, thanks so much for your insights tonight.
Thank you.
Selling your home the traditional way is a long and painful process.
I found ZipRecruiter. They figured out hiring. I post my job, they put it all over the web, and they send me the right people.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free.
Yeah, I've been real busy, Sean.
ZipRecruiter.com/more.
Busy, man.
Holes in the so-called witch hunt. Meanwhile, the FBI agent kicked off the Russia investigation is now being summoned back to the Hill. Peter Strzok is going to testify in public next week. Is he walking right into a GOP trap? That's what his lawyer claims. Why? He's going to make the case to you. And did you hear? LeBron James signed with the LA Lakers. So what's going to happen when the biggest name in basketball comes face to face with the most outspoken father in the game? You know who I'm talking about. The ball is in our court tonight. LeVar Ball. Anything can happen when he's on live TV. What better way to celebrate Independence Day Eve? So what do you say? Let's get after it. All right, let's go to the whiteboard and start talking about this big news that dropped today, the Senate Intel Committee findings on Russian interference. This will help you break down the headlines.
We had a party on Saturday night. We made over $1,000 Saturday
the Senate
night.
Intelligence Committee. But it was GOP-led. Chairman Richard Burr, hardliner, no joke.
So that's going to help to pay next month's rent and utilities and stuff like that. That was only one night.
The intelligence community got it right. The quote is, no reason to dispute those conclusions. What are they? Russia meddled as part of an elaborate scheme to disrupt our democracy. Putin.
We had a DJ come by there.
The Kremlin had
it was awesome.
Preference.
Matter of fact, I had the fight Saturday night at the clubhouse.
Now,
saw Miocic get knocked out by Cormier.
The Senate committee saw how there were different levels of confidence between the agencies. You had the CIA and the FBI. They had high confidence. The NSA only felt moderate confidence on some aspects. So Burr's report calls the disagreements reasonable, transparent, openly debated among the agencies and analysts. In other words, smart people were allowed to make their case, but they all pointed in the same direction. And most importantly, the Senate committee found analysts were under no political pressure, no politically motivated pressure is how they worded it. What does that mean? No bias. And all of this exposes the House Intel Committee efforts basically as BS, especially those led by its chair, Devin Nunes, which were clearly geared to undermine the intelligence community. His report found, quote, significant intelligence tradecraft failings. Yet tonight, even his Republican counterpart in the Senate is on record and calling Nunes's bluff. The job was done right, shows a clear plan and preference. That means that Trump's saying that this didn't really happen. Putin denies it. It's not real. Didn't matter anyway. All false. Exposes the Trump tripe. It is also a great tee-up for a great debate. And we have two perfect men for the task. Van Jones and David Urban. So, Van Jones, you heard my assessment. Do I have it right? Do you think that this is a big blow to the president's posturing of this not being a big deal and didn't really happen?
Well, it definitely is, and especially when you realize that the Republicans have the majority. If there were some reason for them to say, hey, guess what? Surprise, surprise, the president's right, the agencies are wrong, there's a much bigger political upside for them to do that than to do what they did. But what should happen now, it won't, but what should happen now is that now that you got a bipartisan, Republican-led but bipartisan statement that says for sure we are under attack, we should start coming together now. We shouldn't be, oh, well, what about this, what about that? We got a problem. We got a democracy being undermined. And yet, I guarantee you're not going to have the president walk up tomorrow morning to a microphone and say that, and that's unfortunate.
Well, you don't have to be a prognosticator, Dave. We just had the president put out a tweet a few days ago, with plenty of information about the reality, saying, Putin denies it. Now, help us understand. Why would the president say something that he knows his intel community doesn't share, that he knows is probably untrue, but he says it anyway?
Hey, Chris, well, first of all, let me just start by congratulating you after 30 days on the air of having the #1 rated show on CNN.
Oh, very kind. Why didn't you mention that, Van?
Great.
Jealous. Thank you very much. Look, it's because of you guys. You've been helping me out every night. You bring your expertise, you bring your passion, and we thank you.
Stay smoking. What up, baby?
Yeah, listen. I don't know. As people know, watch this. I don't necessarily agree with you, but I love being on your show because I think you're fair.
Yeah, you got to give me a second there,
so look,
smoking.
It's not surprising. I don't agree with you and Van. I don't think there's a whole lot of new news here. Director Mueller has already indicted. We've come to this fact already, right? Director Mueller indicted 13 Russians, and the IRA troll factory.
What is wrong with you?
If you think he's real on real time,
Okay, shut up.
just wait.
People walk out when I talk about this.
No guests, no deaths, just Bill.
Let me finish. I promise what I have is better.
In an all-new live stand-up special.
We got this covered.
Bill Maher, live from Oklahoma, on HBO.
Internet research agency Troll Factory out of St. Petersburg indicted these 13 individuals. The Secretary of Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, has imposed sanctions on them, shutting them down, kicking them out, really crack down on them. So I don't know if there's a whole lot of news.
But the president just tweeted that Putin says it didn't happen.
Hold on.
Can't ignore that.
Hold on. Well, he did. Putin. I'm sure Putin says it didn't happen, right? But let me say one thing that's missing from all this analysis, right? Senator Bernie's a good man, and he's a very fair-handed individual. But what's missing from this analysis is, did it have any impact? The Russians may have tried. This internet research agency did a bunch of things that were malicious in our election, and I'm hoping right now that the FBI counterintelligence, our CIA, and other agencies are moving aggressively to make sure it doesn't happen in 2018 and 2020. But the question that nobody's asking, and we don't have an answer to, is that did it matter? Did it have any impact? And that's what's missing from this analysis.
Do you agree with that, Ben?
Well, I just don't understand why that is this kind of teddy bear that the Republicans want to cling on to. It's this
No, it's not a teddy bear. Did it matter?
Yes. Hey, listen, here's the deal. I cannot imagine that in an election when you had 120, 130 million people voted, it was decided by only 70,000 people in about 3 states, 10,000 people in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. That's a pretty narrow margin. And so we need to find out, did it have an impact? I think it's hard, to argue it has zero impact.
I read the indictment. I read Director Mueller. I read the indictment handed down by Director Mueller, and some of the verbatims that were in there lifted from this. And I was involved in the election in Pennsylvania. And interestingly, Van and Chris, even the Russians didn't think the president was going to win in Pennsylvania. They didn't even bother doing anything in Pennsylvania. They skipped over the state.
Hey, listen.
So to your point, Van, did it matter? Listen, we want fair and square. Fact of the matter is, fair and square. We want.
I don't understand why that's the sole bar. Just to emphasize a point that Van was making, Dave, so you can help. I don't understand why you want that to be the litmus test for whether or not Russian interference in your election matters. It matters on its face.
No, Chris, absolutely matters.
But when you say did it matter in the outcome, are you suggesting that unless you can show that they manipulated a vote count, that it doesn't matter? Because that's what the president seems to apply as a standard.
No, listen, I think the president is angry with the news media, and rightfully so, because they're trying to delegitimize his election.
Where do you get that? You just put out there, did it matter? And you had two people who get targeted by the president who didn't jump up and say, yes, it did. It was really bad. It's the only reason he won.
Listen,
so why demonize us?
The next time I talk to him, I'll make sure to give you and Van the props with him, okay?
No, but I'm saying I've never heard anybody say in the media that we have to get to the bottom of this because it's the only reason he's president. That's only him who says that.
No, that's only a left of center. Listen, if you honestly saying, and Van, if you guys are both honestly saying that the left does not say that, but for this meddling, Donald Trump wouldn't be president.
I've heard that about Comey.
I think it's kind of farcical.
I've heard that about Comey, but I think that the big concern, Van, left, right, and center should be they're going to do it again. And we've been so busy dealing with definitions and parameters so that Trump can be safe at the end of this analysis that we haven't done anything to stop it happening again.
Chris, I don't know. Listen, I don't know.
No, it's my turn. It's my turn. I get to talk. It's my turn. So here's the deal. A couple things. There were people under Obama who said Obama cheated. He wasn't even born here. The whole thing, it was Acorn, all these different things. You always have some people in the losing camp that just won't accept the election. You have people on the left who will say, he cheated, the whole thing was engineered, it was hacked, the whole deal. All of that stuff is just a normal part of the process. But what's unusual is for the President of the United States to disregard and to dismiss and to diss his own intelligence agencies, because the President and the rest of us are supposed to be above all that, focused on protecting and preserving this democratic republic. And any threat, foreign or domestic, he took an oath to oppose.
I agree.
And that's the problem.
But you didn't call it out, Dave.
No, listen,
you went right to the idea of, well, did it matter?
Guys, listen. Let me ask you a question. Do you know, can you tell me, do you know what the FBI counterintelligence folks are doing in this country at this very point in time? What the NSA is doing? What the CIA is doing overseas?
I do.
You know what they're doing?
I do.
You do?
Whatever they're doing.
Okay. Well, don't say it on the air because you're violating some classified.
That's what they're doing. If they're doing a good job, they're ignoring their president who says, "Who on all of you guys? There's nothing going on here." So I hope they're ignoring the president.
I mean, look, that's the big headline from today, is that you now had a really bipartisan group. Now what that mess happened in the House.
Open Door is a new way to sell your home. You sell your home to Open Door, we close on your timeline. You just go on the website, you type in your address.
It literally took minutes.
Selling our home to Open Door could not have been easier. Start your sale with Open Door today.
That is one of the worst broken noses I've seen.
The House come out and say the intel community's right. It was real, it was intentional, it was bad, and it's going to happen again. The president doesn't echo those sentiments. Maybe now he will. We got to leave it there. We got to leave it there. Dave, Van, please enjoy your entire experience with Independence Day. I am happy for both of you guys on my show.
Chris, thanks for having us. And tune in. Van and I are sharing some airtime on Saturday.
Beautiful. Sure. I will be watching the two prettiest heads in the business. All right, so now we got one side of the probe and what we need to talk about, but there's another part to chew on as well. It involves a man who is the alleged anti-Trump bias face at the FBI. He's one of the president's favorite targets. Republicans are having him come in to testify in public this time. Could it be a trap for Peter Strzok? That's what his lawyer says. His case, next. The president taking Vladimir Putin at his word that Russia didn't interfere with our election was always silly. It now just got dealt a huge blow with this bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report that came out today, as it echoes the findings of every other fair broker on the situation. Russia meddled. Trump is kidding himself, and probably only himself, trying to minimize Putin's role. Now, that's just one aspect of this. And there's all this intrigue. Why would the president do this? Why would the president do that? Did Russia help him and he's trying to pay them back by being nice? I don't know the answers to any of those things, if we don't have facts. And none of them erase the legitimate issues that could be going on with the Russia probe on behalf of the U.S. authorities. Enter Peter Strzok, the FBI agent taken off the Russia probe because of these anti-Trump texts. He testified behind closed doors before a House committee last week. Now they're going to bring him back to have him testify in public. Now, his lawyer thinks that this could be a trap by the House GOP. So his name is Eitan Goldman, and he's here now to make the case. Counselor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, first things first, will your client comply with the subpoena or the request? Will he come on in and do another interview?
My client will testify publicly soon, somewhere, sometime. We just got this subpoena today, so I don't know whether or not we are going to be testifying next Tuesday in front of these two particular House subcommittees.
Why isn't it an automatic yes, Eitan?
Because we have come to the conclusion, we've been forced to come to the conclusion that this is not a search for truth. It is a chance for Republican members of the House to preen and posture before their most radical, conspiracy-minded constituents. And if you just look, I mean, you would think that here you have a guy, Peter Strzok, knows some things, wants to tell a story, wants to testify. If you have a committee that actually wants to find out facts, that wants to find out the truth, you might actually have a meeting of interest. But from our experience with the committee thus far, it is obvious that they don't want the truth. They don't want to hear what he has to say.
You had observers who were there. The transcript hasn't been released of the last interview. I know that you've said release it. Look, I'd love that, right? I'm a journalist. I'd love to have information. I'm not in the business of believing what people tell me in the government or anywhere, for that matter. I'd like to see the proof myself. But they say that they found what he said compelling on different levels. So is it fair to say that he hasn't had a chance to tell his story yet?
Who said that they found what he had to say compelling?
Different Democrats who were in the room.
Look, Pete has sat and listened as he's been caricatured and misdescribed and accused by the president of treason and of being a sick loser. And on Fox News, they talk about him as the center of this anti-Trump cabal that was determined to throw the election against Trump. None of this has a shred of truth. And Pete has been silent. He's been cooperating with the Inspector General. He's been doing what he's supposed to. And now he wants a chance to actually talk to the American people. So when we heard that these two committees, along with other committees, were interested in talking to Pete, I reached out to them. I said, Pete will come talk to you. You don't need to issue a subpoena. Let's do it publicly. No, we can't do it publicly. Okay, well, can you at least tell me that you'll release a transcript so you don't have House Republicans selectively leaking or misleaking selective excerpts to make them look bad? No, we can't do that either. Well, okay, we'll come in anyway. So we came in, and he testified, and what really kills me is the Republicans, the committee, the first thing they tell us in there is, this is confidential. If you disclose any of this, you could be compromising the integrity of this investigation. And not just elite, Republican members during breaks were dashing out to talk to the media, to tell them, this guy, he's not answering questions.
You know what you should have done?
Selling your home the traditional way is a long and painful process, but you can skip all that and sell your house to Open Door instead of putting it on the market. Sell in days, not months, and do it all online. Get your free offer in 48 hours at opendoor.com.
That's again the experience. Oh, she got rocked again. This could be it here. Most likely rib damage.
What's that?
You should have brought your client here. Because then it would be all live. It would all be on the record. It would all be out there for people to see, and he'd be tested by someone where the audience gets to see what it is and what it isn't.
There may come a day, Chris.
The offer stands. Now, you said something earlier that I gotta come back to you on, which is there's not a shred to any of the allegations. Now, your client put himself in a position of criticism by what he wrote in his text. I understand he didn't think they'd become public when he was writing them to an intimate. I get that. But the texts came out, and they tell a story that he's going to have to answer for. Trump's not ever going to become president, right? No, he won't. We'll stop him. Now, the Inspector General's report found that he had bias for a reason, and this seems to be proof of it. I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected. I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. These are things that are suggestive of a bias against Donald J. Trump, who was running for president at the time. How's that not a fair reading?
Well, I mean, it's a completely fair reading to say that Pete Strzok and Lisa Page were not fans of Donald Trump. I think they both admit that, and they both admit that, in these texts, which they thought were private and ultimately were not, they used some purple language to describe Trump. And, if you go through the times when they're talking about Trump, whether they call him an idiot, whether they use less polite terms, each of those corresponds to something that's happening in the campaign. At one point, Trump is denigrating a family of a fallen war hero, and they have an exchange about that.
That's justification for a feeling. What I'm saying is, if it existed as a feeling, reasonable or unreasonable, doesn't that make it true that Strzok was acting with a bias when he was doing whatever he was doing because he didn't like this guy? And how can it not affect his decisions?
No, of course it doesn't make it true. I mean, that's what FBI agents do every day, right? Everybody in the FBI has got political opinions. Trump, Pete is not the only one who didn't like Trump, and there are a lot of people in the FBI who really, really disliked Hillary and Bill Clinton. Doesn't mean that they
weren't in a position to act on a threat of, we'll stop it.
Yeah, well, I don't know why you think that that's a threat. I think that what he's...
How would you characterize it?
I think he does not think. That is right about when Trump was talking about the Khan family. And I don't think that Pete or Lisa Page or hundreds of millions of other Americans, including a lot of Republicans, thought that it was, there was a chance in hell that Donald Trump was going to be elected at that point. Look, the allegations I was talking about, Chris, that don't have a shred of truth are the ones that put Pete Strzok at the center of this secret society, this Dumbledore's army type of underground cell in the FBI. There's no truth to that. And
I mean, they took that from his conversations also, but I've never seen it substantiated. I hear you on that.
No, not substantiated. I mean, the IG's been investigating this for months and months. It's a 570-page report, okay? They know why they took different decisions in the Clinton email investigation.
And he said he found bias. He couldn't find it overall, but he did find it. He couldn't rule it out in the idea of how you prioritize different investigations regarding Trump and Hillary. There's certainly things for him to answer for in them. You can't be surprised he's getting criticism.
No, of course not. And he is ready, willing, and able to answer questions about the text.
Gotcha.
The problem with this forum is that, I mean, I don't know if you watched the Rod Rosenstein and Chris Wright testimony the other day.
Hour after hour.
Okay, so the way they treated those two guys, you know, these lifelong Republicans, and not letting them answer questions, filibustering, that is nothing compared to the way they treated Pete Strzok. So
again,
it does not seem to me like a search for truth.
I hear you. I get it. I want to see the transcript so we can make our own judgments. And the offer stands. He will get a full hour here on this show to make any case he wants to make, and there won't be any fly around. Wah! Almost got it. All right, Eitan Goldman, thank you very much for making your case for your client. The offer stands.
Okay.
See that fly run away? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, you're going to want to stick around. We have one of the biggest personalities on the planet who's ready to be on prime time. Lakers dad LeVar Ball is here and ready to give his take on the new guy coming to his son's team, and he's got a league of his own he wants to talk to you about. Next.
LeVar, we've heard the rumors of LeBron possibly coming to LA this summer. Do you think that it will happen?
I don't think it'll happen. I know it's going to happen. I told you to call him LA Ball.
He was right. The outspoken father of LA Lakers point guard Lonzo Ball back in February, predicting a three-time NBA champ LeBron James would make his way to the city of angels. LeVar Ball joins us now. Welcome back to Primetime. It's good to see you, big baller.
Hey, man, it's good to talk to you again, Promo. You know we got to do our thing.
We're doing it right now. How did you know that LeBron was going to come there?
Come on, man. That's why people are always so mad at me, because I'm always right.
That's not why. But let me ask you this.
But it only makes sense.
You were right. It makes sense why? Why is this the right move?
It makes sense because, like I told him before, his narrative has to be that every team he's went to, he's won. So you can't stay in Cleveland and win 4 or 5 championships like Michael Jordan did in Chicago. You can't do that. So your narrative has to be the best player in the world. You got to say, every team I went to, I won them a championship. So that's the thing right there. And then he wants to do something after basketball, which is probably with his movie studio or whatever. So you got to go to that entertainment level in L.A. You can't get no entertainment like that in Cleveland.
So do you?
I had to win by a submission? What?
So business-wise, it makes sense for the game.
Oh,
but let's talk about the second part. I get you on the business side. He's in Hollywood. If that's the next...
A gym selfie?
People need to know about my business.
Do they, though?
17 likes, Mom. Ooh, and come. Good things. Real stacks for real life.
Chapter he wants is in the right place. Right. But can they win this team? The Warriors just signed Cousins. They had the best team in the league, and now they got DeMarcus Cousins. Do you think the Lakers can beat that team?
Man, I don't think the Lakers can beat them. I know the Lakers can beat them if they get the right guys.
Oh, they need more guys. Who do they need?
You need some more guys. You got to play fast. You got to play super fast.
What do you think of them bringing Rondo on? Now, I know for our audience, this is a news audience, I get it, and they probably don't follow basketball, but they brought Rondo in, the famous guy from the Celtics. You know, then he moved around the league, plays the same position as your son. What does that mean?
Right. I don't mean nothing. He's got another teammate.
You're not worried about competition?
A little backup. That's good. Man, I'll never worry about competition because I know my boys are better than that.
And in terms of identity within the team, you got to love that you got LeBron James coming to your son's squad, but in terms of the shadow that he casts, what does that mean to you?
Nobody casts a shadow. They're just teammates. LeBron signed for 4 years. So guess what? You got to win 4 championships. But if we don't win 4 championships, we should at least get 2.
You really think that they have a chance of winning multiple championships?
multiple championships. The only way you can beat them is playing fast. You got to have the right guys that can go fast.
Did you see this Washington Post headline where they were talking about what it's going to mean
What did it say?
to have LeBron on there? They say LeBron comes. That means big ballers got to go. The headline comes out. Welcome to L.A., LeBron James. See yourself out, LeVar Ball. The suggestion is that you two guys can't coexist. You buy that?
You know what? How can we got to worry about coexisting? He playing on the court and I'm off the court. Quit worrying about me. They did all that negativity in these field games. So that's letting you know right there. Me and LeBron will get along. He come off the court. I'm going to say, hey, LeBron, what's going on, man? Everything lines up for me. And it's so lucky that my son gets to play with his favorite player. Wait till my other boys get to come in that way. Uh-oh. You don't want LeBron and the ball boys linked.
Oh, I didn't get fucking strikes in the face.
My boys together playing a...
Oh, I didn't fucking mount him and get the strikes. Oh, I fucking can't believe I did that.
Is everything good between you and LeBron? There was that controversy when you were talking about how hard it was.
See, I'm not focusing, guys. I got a lot on my mind right now. I am not even focusing right now.
Yeah, me and LeBron got a lot in common, which is family first, winning, grinning, and having a good time playing basketball, championships.
So you say it's all good between you and him?
So anytime. It's all good. I mean, why would it be negative between us? But the best thing to do is he's successful, I'm successful, keep us away from each other. That's what they're trying to create. It's not a big thing. He's going to do his thing on that court. He has a very high IQ. My son has the same thing. It's going to be the best player. Don't give the Lakers, my son, the best player in the game. Don't think he's going to win no championships. That's why we got LeBron. Everything lines up for this, and it's going to be perfect. And you know what? People going to be mad because it's always happening so good for me.
Well, those are just haters, though, right? Everybody should love other people's success. Let me ask you something. Speaking of success, it's not enough for you to put kids in the big league. You had to start a league of your own. Tell us about the league. I know that's why you're down in Georgia.
Fucking thumb slipped off the fucking controller.
On Long Island, I think at Hofstra you had a game. What's the league? What's going on?
Yes. Had a great time, man. Like I said, the JBA is another alternative for guys that could really play this game that couldn't go, the university or the school way. But that shouldn't stop them from following their dream. Just because, they couldn't pass the SAT or do good in class, it should not deter them to say, you know what, my basketball career is over. So we got some guys in the JBA that can really play this game, man. They just needed another opportunity and another alternative to chase their dream. And which is, everybody's not going to go pro in my league, but it gives them a platform to showcase what they can do. Everybody's not one and done, but some of these guys are really talented, and they play with a different sense of pride.
Well, I know that starting a league isn't easy. It's going to have its struggles, and I know you believe you'll get it done. We will follow your journey, and you are always welcome in this place called Primetime when there is news that meets your opinion.
Got it that time.
Tell you, you were right about LeBron. I have to give you your respect on that.
The nation's chief law enforcement official once cited scripture to defend separating thousands of migrant children from their parents. Tonight, the process of reconnecting them is being revealed as an unholy mess. John Berman here in for Anderson. The Trump administration had a deadline tonight, not to reunify all families or even some families, merely to make sure every separated parent has a way to simply contact their child. So far, no answer on whether they succeeded with even that. The administration faces a new deadline tomorrow when the bar is lower still. Simply produce a list of all children under age 5 in custody and covered by the reunification order. More in a moment on that and what else the judge said. First, though, a simple question about HHS Secretary Alex Azar, whose department is responsible for caring for these children through the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Keeping them honest, what in heaven's name was he thinking when he said this?
There is no reason why any parent would not know where their child is located. I could, at the stroke of...
But you know what's going to happen? Somebody going to get knocked out. This is high-octane fighting, the highest level of fighting. MMA, UFC. What a great job. Look at your health bars. Look back up, man. Oh, yeah, that's a wrap. Finito. Whatever you want to call it, done deal. That's a wrap. See ya.
Experience Control GX for Men, the first shampoo with a brain. So smart, it reduces gray gradually. The more you shampoo, the less gray you have.
The breaking news is out of Thailand. 3 boys have been rescued from that flooded cave in just the last 2 hours. One of those boys is at the hospital already.
At this hour, here's what we know. Rescuers frantically trying, of course, to save those remaining 5 boys in the cave, as well as their soccer coach. They have now been underground for 17 days. We know the oxygen levels are falling, the water levels threatening to rise. We begin our breaking news coverage with CNN's Ivan Watson, who is live in northern Thailand. Ivan.
Good morning, Erica and John. Here, the sun is setting over Mae Sai in northern Thailand, and the mountain behind me, where this remarkable rescue operation is underway in the deep cave system where these boys have been trapped. According to Thai authorities, this has been underway for about 8 hours, but probably in the last 3 to 4 hours now. According to a member of the rescue team at the mouth of the cave, we've now seen 3 boys come out from depths of about 2.5 miles, around 4 kilometers, brought out today. 3 rescues today. This comes on top of 4 boys who were brought out Sunday evening out of a total of 12 boys and their 25-year-old coach. So there are still people trapped inside to the best of our knowledge, but this has been a day of rescues. One of those boys has already been medevaced to the hospital in Chiang Rai, the provincial capital, which is about an hour's drive away, flown by military helicopter. The latest we've gotten on the 2 more recent rescues is that the boys are in a field hospital near the mouth of the cave. I can't stress enough how difficult the rescue operation is, and deadly, because last week a Thai former Navy SEAL diver actually died trying to ferry provision supplies on the perilous, narrow, and flooded tunnel to and from where the boys have been trapped now for more than 2 weeks. That's part of why this rescue effort is so difficult, and why, frankly, the rescuers are such heroes. We've heard that the boys have been outfitted with full open-air face masks, since none of them are trained for this kind of delicate, dangerous work. But again, out of the 13 people who had initially been trapped, we're hearing of 7 rescues between Sunday and Monday. I'm going to turn it back to you guys and my colleague Matt Rivers, who's waiting at the hospital.
All right, Ivan, please keep us posted what you hear from the mouth of that cave. Appreciate it. As Ivan was saying, the 3 boys rescued so far this morning on their way to get medical treatment at a hospital near that cave. That's along with the 4 children who were rescued yesterday. Our Matt Rivers live for us at the hospital. Matt, give us the very latest.
Yeah, John, what we're expecting this hour, and will likely be, if all things go well, at that field hospital I was just talking about, is kind of a repeat of what we saw during the 6 a.m. hour, where the boys are initially treated near the cave. They are put in a helicopter. They are flown to an airport, an old airport just south of our location here, and then they're put in an ambulance where they drive right along this road behind me, heading into that hospital just over my shoulder there, going into the emergency room and receiving treatment. We have seen that scene play out 5 times already, and we expect to see it play out a 6th and a 7th time relatively soon. Once inside that hospital, we are getting more details in terms of how they are treated. They are immediately brought to the 8th floor, or a section of the 8th floor is turned into a sterilized isolation unit that has been set up specifically for these people trapped in this cave. There is a concern that their immune systems have weakened. They would be more susceptible to illness, and there's also a concern that they could infect others based on what kind of illnesses they could have picked up while in the cave. So out of an abundance of caution, the boys are being kept in isolation for 1 to 2 days, and that also means that if their parents come to this hospital, they won't be able to give their kids a hug. They'll have to stay 2 meters away from them at all times.
All right, Matt Rivers, stand by, because we have more breaking news. We understand that an 8th child, the 4th today, has been pulled from that cave.
Yes.
Ivan Watson near the scene. Ivan, what are you learning?
Yes.
That's right. We've just heard from a member of the rescue operation who's at the mouth of the cave.
Yes.
Says he's now seen an 8th boy emerge from the cave in the hands of rescuers. So just a remarkable number of hours where, one after another, they've brought people who were trapped for more than 2 weeks out from deep deep beneath the mountain behind me from the network of tunnels and brought them out into the waning minutes of this Monday here in northern Thailand. We have seen in the past half hour an ambulance go past. We've seen a helicopter fly overhead in the last hour or two, and we assume that some of these movements are for moving some of the boys around to getting them to medical attention. The 8th boy that was brought out was taken promptly to a field hospital up at what you could describe as the base camp at the mouth of the cave complex to be looked over by medical health professionals before he would be medevaced further. But again, 8 people now emerging from the cave between Sunday and Monday. That brings it to 4 more still believed to be inside, 4 more boys, as well as a 13th member of the group, which was a 25-year-old soccer coach. And, of course, we'll bring you the latest if and when we hear more. John and Erica?
Ivan, I want to ask really quickly. We know the families have said they will stay together there at the cave area, at the staging area. As far as we understand, they do not yet know the identities of the 8 children who've been pulled out. Are they at a point, Ivan, if you know, where they can actually see these kids being brought out?
You know, the press, and it is a massive contingent of international media journalists who have gathered here for this, incredible vigil, were moved down from the base camp at the entrance of the cave within the last 36, 48 hours. So we don't have eyes on, and not hard to blame the authorities because they have delicate, hard work to do. So we can't see what access the families have at the mouth of the cave. But clearly there's been an effort to, perhaps some solidarity for the families to kind of hold and be patient. It has gone on for more than 2 weeks. And to be patient a bit further, and they've said they will not leave until everybody has been saved. And we've been in contact with a lot of the families between yesterday and today who said they did not know if theirs were among the lucky ones who had emerged. And I spoke with a relative of the adult soccer coach who's in there, and she said she didn't know and probably wouldn't know until everybody had emerged safely. So this is being very carefully managed by the Thai authorities. The information that's being given out is being kind of carefully distributed out in press conferences, and the management of the information flow extends to families as well, it seems.
And to your point, understandable. Ivan, appreciate it. We'll continue to check in with you, obviously, throughout the morning. Also with us now, former Navy SEAL John McGuire, CNN Chief Medical Correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. John, I want to start with you. If we look at this, and it is 4 boys brought out yesterday, and now we're learning about 4 more in a very short period of time this morning. It would seem as if things were picking up rapidly. I mean, can we say that's a good sign, or is it too early?
Well, good morning, John and Erica. Thanks for having me. Yeah, before I answer that, I want to say I think I speak for the world when our hearts go out to the Sergeant Coonan who gave his life to rescue these people. I mean, rest in peace, Frogman. Yeah, it's a good sign. I think that we have Great Britain, the United States, Thai, Navy, and several others. These guys are the best in the world, and they're working very hard. So it's looking good. It's not over yet.
Yeah, optimistic signs here, but I do not think anyone will breathe a sigh of relief until the remaining 5 people, the 4 children and the coach trapped inside, are removed. And Sanjay, again, we don't know if they're done for the day. Yesterday there were 4 out. Today there are 4 more. Maybe they got past that barrier. They needed to get extra oxygen in. Maybe they figured out a way to get more oxygen in and they can try to finish the efforts today. But saying they don't, saying they're up against the same limitations, I have to imagine the trauma of being one of the 4 kids and coach left under for another day, that's just got to be grueling.
There's no doubt. I mean, obviously, you go back now to just put a timeline on this back to June 23rd. So we're talking about this real time, but June 23rd is when they went missing. July 2nd was when they were first found alive, and now, the days have been ticking by. It's countermanded, though, John, the sort of grueling nature of staying there longer with the fact that maybe they're getting this information that their predecessors have successfully been rescued. So that certainly could lift their spirits. And more pragmatically speaking, I mean, this is an extraordinary rescue. I mean, each time they do it, they're probably learning a couple more things. The conditions may change a bit. So that all those lessons could be of benefit to the remaining boys and the coach in the cave.
And no question, again, we've also seen the pictures coming out of northern Thailand. It's not raining. They've been lucky one more day on the weather. The last several days, they've had enormous luck. These monsoon rains seem to have held off. John McGuire, to Sanjay's point, as they continue these rescues, you do have to imagine they're learning. Do you think perhaps they did figure out a way to get beyond that barrier, get more oxygen tanks down in those caves so that they can get the 5 other people out now and not have to wait another day?
You know, in perfect weather conditions, this would be a very difficult rescue. The fact that we have the rains coming in, you're right, time is an issue. And you're right, they adapt, they improvise, they learn. But these guys are, you know, obviously as Navy SEALs, we're combat divers. These master divers, these dive experts from around the world that have come together, this is what they practice. So they're learning, they're getting better. But I'll tell you, 2 things we haven't mentioned too much is trying to teach young people how to scuba dive. There's something called a gas embolism, where you can send a bubble of gas to the brain and it causes an embolism, or if you can imagine as pressure increases, volume increases, you could pop a lung. So you've got to be relaxed. And the current, I mean, we heard about the Navy SEAL, Thai SEAL that died. I don't know what the conditions are, none of us do, but water is a very powerful thing. And so fighting that current and having that rope and having that team to help those young guys, it's a big effort.
I should point out, we're just learning, CNN has just confirmed that operations have now finished for the night, sunsetting there in Thailand, to answer one of your questions earlier, John, about when they could go back out. And, John, I just want to throw this to you as well. We're looking at what is an 11-hour, in best case from what we know, an 11-hour round trip for these divers as they make their way in and then have to get back out. How much downtime would they need before they could go back in? What's safe?
This is a question for me.
For you, sorry, yeah, John McGuire, to you.
John said. Yeah, so what downtime? The thing is, none of us know the situation on the ground, and I don't know if they have.
They got 8 kids saved now, I think. They said 7 or 8 kids saved from that Thailand cave.
In your thought process. So I would hope that they could rotate divers on a schedule. And also, is it water all the way, or do they have pockets taking a break? We don't know the situation on the ground, but these guys know what they're doing.
We do know that it isn't a swim. It isn't a 4-kilometer swim. There are areas where they can walk and get air. We also do seem to know what the limitations are. That 4 seems to be the limit. 4 yesterday, 4 today. They suspended operations. It might be because they have to get the oxygen tanks down there, Sanjay. So we do know there are 4 children and the coach still inside that cave. How would you treat them medically? What's the right way to deal with them, not just psychologically, but also medically, to make them feel as if this is going to be okay?
There is a doctor, my understanding, they're getting a medical checkup before actually beginning the rescue part and actually beginning the arduous journey that you just described, the 4-kilometer one. In this sort of situation, the basics do apply. You want to make sure that, and this is unusual, again, as John was talking about, because of the full mask and the scuba diving. Some of these kids haven't swam before. Anxiety is not just a concern long term here. It's a real concern in the short term, because if someone becomes anxious, starts to have panic attack or something, that could put their life in danger. It could put the rescue divers' lives in danger as well as they try and rescue that person. So that's going to be a big part of it. Obviously, making sure physiologically that they have enough hydration, they have enough strength, that they can deal with any potential hypothermia, all of that as part of the rescue mission. That's what you have to do at the beginning, at the end. There's another triage as they exit the cave to basically determine how quickly now do they need to get them to the hospital. All of that applies. But the doctors and nurses at that point have been preparing for this, really understanding most likely the shape that these kids are going to be in, but also ready for any surprises.
Transitions to the tie clinch.
President Trump's executive order to end family separations at the border does not include a plan to reunite the more than 2,300 children who've already been taken from their families. Health experts, including the American Medical Association, are warning of the trauma that separation can have on these children, not just now, but throughout their lives. Joining us now, CNN chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, as we look at this, so this letter from the AMA, they're saying very clearly they should not be separated. And they talk about the lasting impact, saying families seeking refuge in the U.S. already endure emotional and physical stress, which is only exacerbated when they're separated from one another. It's well known that childhood trauma and adverse childhood experiences created by inhumane treatment often create negative health impacts that can last an individual's entire lifespan. What kind of things are we talking about? Because it goes beyond just the I'm not feeling good, I miss my parents part of it.
Oh, right. And the American Pediatric Association, Association of Pediatrics, echoed those comments as well, saying this goes against everything, we sort of do as pediatricians. There are long-lasting effects. We're talking about something that's known as toxic stress, and there have been people who've been talking about this concept for years, but the basic gist of it is this. You go through some stressor in life, and you have these physiological changes that occur in your body. When you're a young child, especially a child under the age of 5 in particular, those stressors are really buffered by being with a parent, being with someone who's actually providing a sort of sense of comfort, something to actually alleviate that stress. If you have both these things, so the significant rise in stress without the buffering, that's the toxic stress. And that's what they're specifically talking about that could cause these longer lasting effects on the body and the brain. I was really struck by the fact that if you look at mental health disorders in adulthood,
the breaking news is out of Thailand. 3 boys have been rescued from that flooded cave in just the...
Perfectly placed strike.
Brittany Palmer in the building. Second round underway.
I found ZipRecruiter. They figured out hiring. I post my job, they put it all over the web, and they send me the right people.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/more.
Yeah, that must be his outfit for his birthday. Mm-hmm. His birthday party. Yeah.
Excellent movement here on the ground. Very nice sweep.
Can y'all hear me this time? Tell me if you can hear me this time. Can't tell me I'm walking around the house.
Oh, elbow to the head.
Can y'all hear me?
Movement on the ground here.
Somebody tell me if you can hear me.
Constantly staying busy.
She's standing.
He's doing a great job of moving and transitioning here on the ground. Huge elbow lands to the head. He's now working for side control again.
Can y'all hear me?
Excellent movement and transitions here
Somebody
on the
say
ground.
yes or no.
Staying busy. He's doing a great job of moving and transitioning here on the ground. And he's maintaining control in the top position.
Can you hear me?
To improve position here.
Yes, that'd be great.
Puts the elbow up into the target.
Pass me not,
He's going to try to take the
hugging to say,
He's moved back inside control.
Savior, hear my humble cry. When on mother's thou
Hey, what's up, Valentine? Hey, what's up, Ray? Good morning.
Please don't pass me by. Crying, Savior, Savior, Lord, hear my humble cry. Who's that first one we can sing it on, man? Huh? Yeah. I don't know, I just feel like hearing you, girl. I just feel like hearing you sing, girl. Give me a number. Come on. Oh, I got one. Yeah. Oh, you know what? This is the old song. What, girl? I don't know that one. Well, I can learn it. Is it fast or slow? Come on. In between. Oh. Didn't I tell you? It would be alright. Be alright. No, but keep us in it, girl. Give us another.
Yeah, I'm not gonna beat him like this. I gotta change my guy.
It would be alright.
Well, I could mount him. I can't mount him. This is stand up and bang. Yeah, I gotta exit out.
Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright.
Shoot myself in the foot trying to get this objective done when it's a stand and bang objective.
It'd be alright. Didn't I tell you? It'd be alright. Hold on. It'd be alright.
Let me see. See, that's stand and bang. You can't stand and bang with that guy. See, that's normal.
Be alright. Oh, hold on. Oh, hold on. Be alright. 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 Alright, alright.
Fantasia. She's doing a YouTube thing. I'm watching her YouTube thing that she's doing.
Hey, girl. What was the one if it had not been for the Lord on my side? Tell me where would I be? Where would I be on time if it had not felt like you was just getting started. Girl, you making me feel real good now. Make me feel like how we used to be. Pass the peas like we used to do.
Hey, wanna play some video games? I know I do. I haven't seen the sun in years. So, let's play League of Legends. Sound familiar? It should. It's amazing. And it's free. You can afford that, right? If you had friends, they would already be playing it. So why aren't you? Jump on in and make some friends. Here's how it works. You start by picking a champion, and there are a lot to choose from. Found one with cool abilities, but you hate his stupid face? Don't worry, you can play dress-up with various skins. If only my pirate could be more anime. Now that's what I'm talking about. Once you actually get in-game, the...
Alright, now let's watch some of the replays. See, you want to try to chop the tree all the way down, and you want to knock it down. Where am I?
Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, may have just tossed his hat into the ring, tweeting today, quote, "If big, he seeks re-election, I will run, but only if I think there is no other candidate in the race that has a real chance at beating him. We can't relive 2016. I love this country, our values, and our people too much to sit by while they are destroyed. Hashtag Fight Club, hashtag Basta." Joining me now live is the man himself, Michael Avenatti. Thanks so much for time on this July 4th.
Happy July 4th, Jim. Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to start very basic question. Why would you be qualified to be president?
Well, I think I'd be qualified because I have three things that this president lacks, Jim. Brains, heart, and courage. And I think I have those in spades compared to this president. And I am deeply disturbed at the direction that this country is taking. I'm deeply disturbed by what's happened most recently with separating these mothers and their children. I think it shows a complete lack of compassion. I'm deeply disturbed about our place in the world. I think our allies are very concerned about where America stands. I'm deeply concerned about these trade issues that the president has taken on, and I think ultimately are going to cost American jobs. And generally speaking, I love this country, and I'm very concerned about where we're going.
Fair points, and all due respect, but keep in mind on all these issues, you would be joining a race that has, well, at least not officially declared, but a number of U.S. senators and governors who are putatively throwing their hats into the ring. How would you measure up against them in light of the issues you're talking about? If you're talking about international trade issues, the national security threats facing this country today, how would you make a credible case to voters that you should be the commander-in-chief?
Jim, all of the experience in the world isn't going to be worth anything if you can't beat this guy. And I'll tell you this, I think that Donald Trump is an exceptional campaigner. I think he has very good political instincts, and I think he should not be underestimated. And if you want to know how he stacks up against traditional politicians with long track records and long voting records, all you have to do is look at the 15, that's not one, that's not two, 15 candidates that he beat on his run to the White House. The bottom line is there's two questions. Number one, who can beat this guy? And number two, will they be better than he is if they are elected? Those are the only two questions, in my view, that matter.
Let me ask you this, because I want to read a tweet of your own, and this just from Sunday. So 3 days ago, you said the following, Dan: I am extremely flattered by the suggestions that I attempt to become AG, that is Attorney General, or run for the House or Senate, but I have zero interest in those jobs, none. I don't want to become a career politician. We have too many as it is. It's quite a change in 72 hours. What led to the change?
No, it's not a change. I didn't say that I wasn't going to challenge the president for the presidency of the United States. Bottom line here, Jim, is if he is reelected, this country is in a world of hurt, in a very, very bad place. People are upset about the potential that he's going to nominate a Supreme Court justice to replace Justice Kennedy. Well, let me tell you something. The next president of the United States, whoever serves after 2020, likely will have a chance to appoint 2, if not 3 additional Supreme Court justices. That is a big deal for the future of this country.
No question. Well, I want to turn now to a case, of course, you're familiar with, involved in, and one involving Mr. Michael Cohen. You may have noticed today that he deleted his biography from his Twitter profile, which used to read, personal attorney to President Donald Trump. That is no longer there.
Man, it looks like this monsoon weather is weird as fuck, boy.
Seeming to distance himself from the president.
What?
In your view, is he indicating that he'd be willing to cooperate with prosecutors, perhaps against the president, or, as a lawyer, do you see a trial balloon for a pardon from the president?
Oh, that shit is weak.
Well, I think, frankly, he's playing America.
See, I'm gonna have to switch my guy up, man.
You know, there's nothing
striker.
stopping Michael Cohen from being a patriot and coming forward with what he knows now about the president. He does not have to wait for charges to be filed. He does not have to wait to be indicted. And I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to be half pregnant, if you will. He wants the support of the American people, but he doesn't want to distance himself too much from the president. And you can't be a fence rider in this situation. He either needs to step up or step out.
Right, and tell the truth to those prosecutors.
Correct.
Turning to another topic, we were speaking about the possibility of running for president. Of course, you would know, a presidential run, any political run, you would face a lot of scrutiny. Bankruptcy records, as you know, show that your former law firm owed the IRS about $2.4 million in back taxes, penalties, interest. That's still, those records show, has not been paid off. Can you run for president without settling that issue?
Well, Jim, we expect that issue to be fully settled shortly. I don't owe anything personally. You know, look, I'll be happy to put my tax records and my background up against the president's background and his tax records. Of course, he won't release any of that information. I don't know how many times he filed for bankruptcy. I've never filed for bankruptcy personally, but I am interested in talking about ripping kids from the sides of their mothers. I am interested in having allies laugh at us around the world. I am interested in where all those jobs are that he promised Americans in key electoral states. I am interested in pro-choice and a whole host of other issues. So look, I hope somebody that's competent enough to beat this guy, and that's the question, who can beat him? I hope that person steps forward. If they don't, I will.
Well, you've already learned the art of the good pivot there. So Michael Avenatti, thank you for coming on, and sincerely wish you a happy 4th of July.
Same to you, Jim. Thanks.
This is CNN.
God, this is a pain.
For mild to moderate eczema, Eucrisa can be used almost everywhere, on almost every body, like the fingers of a flight attendant, the side of a superhero, or the leg.
Administration is rescinding a set of Obama-era guidelines that promoted using race to make colleges more diverse. They could look at the race of an applicant. The decision is setting up a new battle over admissions at college campuses and schools across the country. So let's bring in Michael Eric Dyson. His new book, What Truth Sounds Like, is now a New York Times instant bestseller. Also with us, CNN political commentator Paris Denard. Great to have both of you. A happy 4th of July to both of you. Thank you for spending your holiday portion of it with us. Paris, I'm going to start with you. Are college campuses now officially diverse? No more work needed in achieving that?
No, I don't think that all college campuses are, quote unquote, officially diverse. I think that there is a need to do whatever we can to make sure that college is accessible and affordable, more importantly, to as many students who wish to go to a four-year institution or a community college or any other school.
I mean, if you don't think they're diverse, do you agree with what the Trump administration is doing in advising colleges to no longer look at race as part of the application process, admissions process?
Well, I think the important thing to look at with this decision that came out from the Justice Department is that